Okay, let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Ryan Selvy. Hopefully you're continuing to tune in from before. This is our second episode of the day. I'm very excited to have Anuja on, a good friend of mine. I say good friend, but I actually just met her like last month. She's great. And she is a New York-based designer, animator, and illustrator. Her colorful designs and animations help bring brands to life. And I'm really excited to bring her on and talk all about her process. If you're unfamiliar with what's going on right now, this is Offset, the show that I get to take over during the week when Adobe Live gets to take the week off. And I get to bring on some really cool artists. We talk about their process, their inspirations, their work, anything that you may have, any questions you may have, please throw them in the chat. This is a live stream. If you're watching the replay, I promise it's entertaining enough to watch through, even if it's not being live. So thank you for being here, whether you're here during a live time or a not live time. Right now, we have a bunch of people on the chat, both on YouTube and on Behance. If you are on YouTube, make sure you hop on over to Behance. That's where the majority of the conversation is going to be happening. And like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on the chat to see if I can relay any questions and comments over to Anuja for you guys to just get, pick her brain, see what makes her tick. And I think you're really going to like her work. I love her work. Hello to Cody as our moderator. Thank you very much for being here. Cody Bear is another live streamer and artist that's here often on Adobe Live. So make sure you check out her work. And thank you for holding down the fort and modding for us today. Hello to Oliver, Umacorn, Clever, Bruce. It's good to see all of you guys here. Also to Fabio, it's good to see you. Kara, thank you for sticking around from the last show. I promise we'll make it worth it. And I'm really excited to bring in Anuja. But that's enough up front talking about me and the show and everything. We should hop right in and talk to Anuja. We're going to have her for an hour and a half, and we have all of our different segments, and I'm excited to get started. So without further ado, here is Anuja. Hi, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited to have you on the show. I'm having a good day so far. How's your day so far?
It's been pretty good. Very chill.
Yeah,
No
very
complaints.
chill. Love to hear it. Well, we'll try to get a little less chill and more chaotic as we hop into everything about you and your work. For people who are unfamiliar with your work, do you want to just give a quick little elevator pitch as to what you're about and who you are?
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Anuja. I'm a multidisciplinary designer and animator, originally from Dallas, Texas. I now live in New York City. And I do a lot of work for a variety of brands, works both agency and in-house, just primarily in social media lately, but done all sorts of stuff. And I just enjoy continuing to experiment in a variety of media.
Yeah. Well, I am honored to have you as your Adobe Live premiere. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of you now that you're in the ecosystem. But are you right now working mostly as a freelancer, or are you working in-house?
I've been contract in-house for IBM for 2 years now.
Oh, too cool.
Yeah.
And how did you kind of fall into that? Were you kind of looking to work in-house with someplace, or is it something that kind of organically happened?
It's something that completely organically happened. So I had been working with VaynerMedia for a little while, like on a variety of different, accounts. And there was a social media strategist who left Vayner and went to IBM, and they needed a designer. So she recommended me. Here I am.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I know you said you're originally from Texas. Did you go to school down there?
I did. I went to the Art Institute of Dallas.
Oh, very cool. Well, I'm glad that you moved up to New York, Happening City, obviously. I'm a little bit biased because I'm also over in Brooklyn.
Right.
But I know you said you're multidisciplinary artist. When you were starting off your work journey, did you kind of feel like you were going to go in that direction and end up with animation, design, and illustration? Or were you kind of laser focused at the beginning on one specific medium or like design?
I was not focused at all. I was completely scattershot. So, like when I first went to the Art Institute, I was originally a graphic design major. And then, I learned about the animation major, and I was like, oh, maybe that would be more fun, because I was like, of course, just not knowing any better, I was like, I like to draw. That seems like a lot of drawing. Okay. So got into the animation major, was briefly a modeling, like a 3D modeling major, and then switched to motion design. And then like my first really big job out of school was with a studio called Real Effects, and I worked in the commercial department. And the cool thing about that situation was it was just like the buffet of everything you ever want to do in, in commercial design. So it was drawing, it was a little bit of modeling, it was 3D projection, it was, live action. So I was
Wow,
a
3D
hand.
projection. That's always something that I've have been like, that would be cool to figure out, but I've never actually sat down and taken any sort of time to actually explore it. So that's really cool
Yeah,
that you were, I mean, whiplash, but that's cool that you were kind of thrown into that.
definitely whiplash, but it was very worth it because I just got to try everything. And then I realized I kind of like doing everything. So like getting niching down is like something I have not mastered at all. It's just like I love dabbling in all sorts of different things. And so that was kind of the great thing. It's just like, yes, I do like dabbling and I can get away with it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's very clear in a lot of your work. In just a second, we'll actually hop in and show the people what you have in your Instagram and your portfolio. But real quick, actually, Kendall is in the chat saying, "Yay, Vayner! Also actually worked there, so yay!" So
Oh, yay. Hello,
okay.
Kendall.
Also, we have a lot of hellos from Kendall and Oliver and Kara. It's good to see everyone making Adobe look good, so I appreciate you guys. But like I said, let's check out our first segment, which is let's look at your work. Let's look at your work. So thank you to Cody for putting Anuja's website in there, hey-anuja.net. But I went ahead and actually pulled up your Instagram because I know you mentioned that you felt like that would be more exciting. It has, just like you said, a broad range of styles and mediums, and that's always really cool to see, from both traditional to digital. And then you also even have this t-shirt quilt that you recently made. So you're also very crafty with your hands as well. Let's hop into something. What is something that you are really proud of that you recently posted?
So I dabbled in a lot of like hand lettering, and recently the second row center I was included in. Oh, sorry, but yeah, that one. I was included in the first Women of Type book. So
Very cool.
yeah, so this is actually a piece like so Good Type had been doing like a lettering challenge a day, and this was a piece that I made just like in one of those, morning challenges. And it ended up getting selected for this book. So it's their first book. It's available on Amazon. And yeah, I was pretty excited to be included in that.
And so I'm assuming it's exclusively women who are all kind of focused specifically in type. How did you get in contact with them? Was it just like a call for artists, or was it something that you had already been talking with the people that have kind of created it?
No, it was just an open call for artists. And I was like, well, I have this that's just sitting here, there's no harm. So I just submitted it and it got included.
Which is even more flattering to it, because the idea of just like being able to have a selection and something that makes it into a curation. I mean, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Is this a piece of photo that you took yourself and then you just superimposed the type on top of it in like Photoshop or something?
That's exactly what I did. This was me and my niece. That's my hand and my niece's hand. I was at her graduation at Mrs. Smith College last year, and we were walking around. They have these incredible greenhouses, and there was this huge leaf. So we just kind of like, just off the cuff, just kind of took a picture together with this big leaf. And then that's what happened. It was all very, very off the cuff and improvised. And, that's there it is.
Yeah. Now, for your type, was this something that kind of started with a regular typeface, or was it just something that you sketched out and you had the letter forms and just kind of created it by hand?
Fully sketched out. I very just like, oh, I'm gonna doodle on this photo right now and see what happens. And so
Well,
no,
it turned out great. I love
thank
the
you.
inline of it as well. It's still very legible, although it has a bit of style to it. And then I also kind of like the presence of the things that are kind of popping off even down here, just that add that extra dynamic to it, and the motion that's coming out of it, because you're also a motion designer, and even though it's static, it kind of still has the means of motion in it, which is nice to see.
Thank you.
Everyone that knows me knows that I love my comics. I'm always really excited to see sequential art. Can you tell me a little bit about this piece?
Sure. So This was also like a there's these sequential artist workshop. Yeah, I love digging into like weird little like themes and workshops and stuff like this. So this was from a prompt from the sequential artist workshop. They have Friday nights. They have like a little online get together with that's hosted by like different comic artists. And so this one was like specifically the prompt was like, draw a comic about music. And like in the moment, I couldn't really think of like a specific because you don't have a whole lot of time to draw. And I draw pretty slowly. So in the moment, I couldn't think of like a concise event that I could draw a comic about in like 45 minutes. So I sort of just doodled how I felt generally about music. And then later on, assembled it into this format. So, it's like I like all the different ways I enjoy music. I definitely like live with it in my ears at all times, love going to shows, and then inevitably end up like humming or singing along when I'm, drawing or doing other things. So that's sort of how this came about.
Yeah, I like the energy and the change of tone because obviously we have kind of the quiet sense in the top left and the bottom right, and then you kind of have this concert feel and this crazy dancing with the cool colors. I love the fact that you represented the different changing lights with just doing this monotone color of pink, which is really nice. And then all of that is juxtaposed on top of this crazy plant, which is nice. Was the plant just from memory, or did you kind of go for a resource? I also love how it goes into the earbud, by the way. That's really
Thank
cool.
you.
Now, yeah, did you go somewhere to kind of draw this like in plain air kind of, or was this something you pulled up images for?
These plants are on my windowsill.
No way. Wow. So you
Yeah,
have a green thumb.
a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
they're kind of like unwieldy, but yeah, they're. Yeah, they sort of do their own thing. But yeah, these are the plants in my windowsill. I kind of just like whenever I'm kind of stuck, I end up just like drawing what's around me or drawing what's in my immediate vicinity. So like to me, everything sort of feels like a diary. I don't necessarily know that that comes across to anybody else, but it's like everything is inadvertently very personal because it's all just like what's happening around me and what am I feeling in that moment.
Very autobiographical in that sense,
Yeah.
which is always really good. I mean, I feel like that happens a lot with especially sequential art, just because you have to draw from your experiences. And then that was all physical media that you did, but you also kind of have this understanding of digital and motion. Can you talk a little bit about this cool little swipe action going on here?
So this was like I have like my a PM that I used to work with at an agency in Dallas. I used to draw her all the time. I especially like used to draw her in like very unflattering like situations, like when she's sick. I
How
inevitably,
kind.
yeah, I know, really, real thoughtful of me. So like she was like, I had to stay home from work, and I'm vomiting, so I did the really kind thing and drew her vomiting, or like her favorite, what I say that sarcastically, she hated this drawing, is she had like an infected like pink eye or something,
No.
and so I just drew this picture of her with this bulbous eye and like naturally did the really thoughtful thing of putting it on social media, and she loved that. So for her birthday, I was like, I haven't drawn her in such a long time, like I should do an unflattering picture of her for her birthday. So that's what this started out as. And then kind of haphazardly, I was like, oh, I wonder maybe if I have time, I can like animate it. So it's like I drew it initially like 1920 by 1080, thinking I was just gonna like put a still picture of her on my story. And then I was like, oh, let me add some heads and tails and see if I can like, see like, or stretch it vertically and like maybe see if I have time over lunch, I can make it swipe. So that's sort of how this all very came together really organically. Like, it was just supposed to be like a quick drawing, and then it turned into this with the Golden Girls music playing in like, IG reels. And
True friendship for you there.
yeah,
What,
yeah.
what a birthday gift. We have Bruce in the chat saying he loves the scrolling up motion. Also, for the previous piece, Caro is saying that she also loves the comic art and she loves the pink light section of the piece. So good. Cody is also laughing at the wonderful friendship that you have with drawing your friends in horrible ways. I love the exaggerated means that you have here. And I also really like how you approach the both the earrings and also just the ear stencil that you have going on with the earlobe and the kind of crossover, which is a cool style for it.
Thank you.
Um, Very neat. Let's pull up one more piece that we have up here. I mean, these are ones that really stood out to me. I like the use of negative space as a means to create line work. What is this about?
I I just kind of like made some blobs. So, but I'm sure plenty of people do this. It's like when you just like don't know what to draw. So, I had some ink lying around, and I was just like, let me just put some blobs on a page and just see what pops out. And so, this was like one of those blobs. I was like, instead of just drawing directly on the page, I was like, I don't. I feel like sometimes I want to play around with more traditional media mixed with digital.
Hmm.
So I scanned the blobs and then drew digitally on top of them. And so it's a series of three where it's kind of like just this made up stories specifically on these little blobs. And so there's this lady and this gentleman, this mysterious stranger. And then the other ones are in like previous posts. I think there's like one before and one after or something. But
Yes, right here.
yeah, so this started as like, yeah, they were just like really arbitrary shapes and then just kind of drew on top of them. I really like breaking things with like negative space and stuff and defining stuff with open areas. So that's sort of how this came about, and the story just organically happened while I was drawing. It's like this peculiar thing started to emerge from this pot, and she puts a letter in her handbag. It's like nothing. I'd like to say that things are more planned. I don't plan very well. I'm not much of a planner, so it's fun for me to just improvise on the spot.
No, the thing that I really like about this is I didn't realize that they were authentic textures. It's really cool the fact that you kind of went and you just scanned them in and then you put on top, and having this mixed medium. It works so seamlessly that I kind of just already assumed that it must have been a mask or something that you applied in Photoshop. And then I think of my favorites, I like this guy a little bit. It's like a little cocoon with the all seeing eye.
Thank
Um, and so all the white though is entirely is entirely digital for you.
Correct.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, and so you had a little bit of a story. Do you think that this will ever kind of establish into a more established kind of narrative between these characters, or is it kind of like it's exercise and then you kind of move on to the next thing?
I tend to do like I tend to do just like an exercise and then move on. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe sometime, maybe someday I should go back and revisit, but I'm very bad about like, okay, I finished this and now put it away forever and never look at it again.
Yeah.
So, maybe down the road, like if I feel like, revisiting, maybe, but that's
It's nice to have in your back pocket if you ever want to kind of if you're in a rut or something. I told you right before we went live that this is one of my favorites, and that we were definitely going to talk about it. I like the little snail dude.
okay.
Um, but what is this a part of?
This is it's me. It's a self-portrait.
This is you. You are the snail.
Yes.
Why is that?
Um, because I like that snails can be considered like not necessarily like attractive, but also some people think they're cute, but people think they're gross. I kind of like that it's moved slowly because I do feel like I came to my career very slowly. I went to school older. I don't necessarily feel like there's like I'm constantly looking up stuff like how to find your illustrative voice, and it's like I feel like I'm very slow to coming around to that or what that really even means to me. So the snail, and I like being able to you know I like the idea of having your home on your back and just being kind of like mobile, because I do feel not like necessarily physically, like I grew up in Dallas and I lived there for ages. So it's not like I moved everywhere physically, but mentally I kind of feel like I'm just kind of moving all over the place.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's the snail. I think this was like the beginning of the new year or the end of the year. I can't remember, but I, you know, I like the randomness of a playing card and like the idea of luck. And so that's where I was. But yeah, that's the snail is me. Every time you see a snail, it's me.
Now, this one you chose 9 for the deck of cards.
Mhm.
I assume this isn't part of a bigger series, but would you ever explore having a snail deck of cards?
I love that idea. That's actually a really cool idea. Yeah, I'm game for it. Especially like I think the face cards, the snail face cards would actually be really, really fun to explore now that you mention it.
I would love to see a queen snail.
Yeah, exactly. A king and queen snail, that'd be rad. I think I drew like a party snail one time, like for the new year, and I put the hat on the shell. So I kind of would probably do the same thing, just put their little crown on the shell. And like
Yeah.
the jokers would be really goofy too. I'm into that. Okay.
Was there a reason you chose number 9 for this one in particular? Because I know it was the end of 2021.
Yeah, so it was the end of 2021. My mom, she's a physicist. She's very into numbers and stuff like that, and she always told me that 9 is an indestructible number. And it weirdly happens to be a number that shows up in my birthday, like 9/27/81. And so she's like, she's the one who pointed that out. I think the numbers that like add up, like the time I was born, she said adds up to 9. I don't know it off the top of my head, but she's like, she loved that 9 always seemed to appear in my, in like my birthday and the time I was born. And she was like, 9 is an indestructible number. And I was like, I need that energy right now. It was the end of 2021. I was in a really like, strange headspace. And I was like, okay, I'm manifesting that for myself.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's really cool because then it's also, once again, like it just looking at this without any of that knowledge, I wasn't so aware that it was such a self-portrait. And it's really cool that the more that we dive into it and the more that I see it, like there's more of yourself that is kind of funneled through this. Bruce really likes the deck of card ideas. Oliver says he would buy snail cards. Mike is saying eat the shrooms and communicate with the plants, which that might have already happened because I mean look at the eyes on that snail. And also a hello to Aluwesi. They say nice concept. And Reaver Mike also says snails can be very good with some garlic and butter, which is dark because it is a self-portrait. So we're not going to eat Anuja on the stream today. And then let's look at one more thing before we hop into our next segment. Obviously, he's really cute. This is great. I mean, I guess this is a really cool one to see just because of your relationship to type. And this is kind of drawing back to the first one that we looked at. What was this one about?
This one, this is so ridiculous. So me and my friends Michael and Roger, we didn't know what borscht was, and like, if you ever get into a goofy mood with your friends where you just like one word makes you cackle for no reason at all. And that was basically what this was. We were walking in the East Village and Roger kept yelling borscht and we didn't know what it was, and so we just kept laughing. And so then finally one of us actually did the adult thing instead of yelling in the street and like pulled up our phone and looked up what is borscht. And it's a beet soup, like an Eastern European beet soup. And my friend Anna, the one that I drew from the beginning, the birthday picture, she is Armenian, and she was furious that I didn't know what borscht was. She was like, you are a terrible friend. How do you not know
like
what
this
borscht
is a hate crime.
Yeah, exactly. So since we were yelling it, I decided to yell it on paper and drew this beet with borscht and big fat letters on it. And then I was like, I liked it so much because it was just like a doodle on a piece of paper. And I liked it so much, I drew it digitally, like finished it up digitally. And there you have it.
And I think that rings true, really. I think that that's something that can be said about a lot of your work is that I know I mentioned a little bit earlier that you can kind of feel the motion even in a static image, but the idea of it shouting and coming at me is something that I immediately picked up when I pulled it, because not only are the letters inflated and we have kind of this, curved appeal to it, we also have these crazy lights that are just crazy smudges that are kind of just coming at you. It would be also great to see this actually animated too, and having it coming and squishing out. I can just see that already happening. But very cool. Fabio says that borscht, love it. Bruce says roasted beets are delicious. And Reverb Mike also says just can't beat good beets. Nice. Which, you got a crowd favorite, I guess.
For the record, we did go to Veselka, and I did have borscht. I was like, after all of that, after screaming it in the street, it deserves to at least be tried. And it's delicious. It's really good.
Yeah, you're a fan of it?
Yes, I did. I am a fan of borscht.
Oh, well, the more you know. Now you have a fan art for your favorite food.
Exactly.
Something that you did bring up was the idea of like this constant movement of coming up with ideas and moving forward. We have the segment called Burnout. So obviously, art block and burnout is something that all artists run into. It's sometimes regularly, other times it comes in when it comes like a cannonball, and it just knocks you out for a little bit. What do you personally do when you're feeling kind of art block or you're feeling in a rut? Is there something that you do to get out of it? Do you watch TV? Do you go for a walk? What's your tip?
So this might not be the most useful tip. I mean, probably like I should leave the house and go for a walk. But what I usually end up doing is actually just drawing. Like
Yeah.
make something ugly. It's like, okay, nothing is happening, especially so I guess like maybe more than a year ago now. I started a 100 days project because I felt like I needed a way to make a habit of drawing.
Yeah.
And so my 100-day project was I'm going to draw a circle and put whatever I want in it. And it was like, you know, I even spoke to some people who were like, try to make it like an emotional outlet. It's not about making anything pretty. It's about what am I feeling in this day? And so I did that for 100 days and I found I really liked it. And, it wasn't intended to make me practice or get better at drawing, but kind of just like it really wasn't more intentional of like, make it an emotional way to like exercise how I feel at that day or at that time. But inadvertently, it became kind of, a way to improve my drawing practice.
Yeah.
Um,
How did you feel about having a 100 days? Like, did it feel on some days like a burden? Or was it kind of always something where you're like, oh, cool, this is like meditation. This is time for myself that I have to do each day.
it's a little bit of both. It kind of
Mhm.
depended on the day. Sometimes, if I knew I was going to be busy the next day, I cheated and drew two circles in one day. Or like if
Yeah.
I had skipped a day, I cheated. But so I wasn't like perfect about it. Um, and some of them are really ugly. Like there's just like I'm not gonna pretend like they were beautiful. Like some of them were just like I'm upset. I'm gonna scribble in this circle, close this, and call it a day because I don't want to do this today. So like yeah, some of them were literally 30 seconds of just like a temper tantrum on paper.
Now, do they live anywhere?
So they do. They lived like the original group of them actually. They lived in this book. I had a sketchbook that I don't like this paper, so it just sat around for ages. And I was like, okay, this is going to be my 100-day project sketchbook. And I was like, make a circle.
Oh, wow. Is that with gouache?
So this one is actually, oh, here we go. Sorry. This was house paint. We were testing house paint on a wall and I had some left over. And so I like just blorped it on a piece of paper and then collaged over it. And then there's like collage, there's ink, there's colored pencil, there's all sorts of stuff. This is my bag got inspected and so I like pulled that out and
Very cool. So it has like a collage element to it.
yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. So the first 100 days, I still do it. So it's like after 100 days, I was like, I actually really enjoy this. So I was like, okay, I'll finish the book.
Mhm.
And then once I finished the book, I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. So I still do it.
Oh, cool. This is actually a very seamless transition into a segment we call "What's in Your Sketchbook."
Oh,
Ooh, what's in your sketchbook? Also, we have some great questions also from Aluwasi in the chat. They're saying, I'm not so good with drawings. How can you help me improve? And also, what inspires your drawings? I guess, especially with these circle ones, is there any sort of structure that you have for approaching the circles? Like, do you give yourself like a words in advance, or is it literally every day just kind of what is approaching, your mood?
literally every day is different. What's approaching my mood? Sometimes, like, I went to the Queen's Museum and I liked the base of a lamp. And so I took a photo of that. And then the base of the lamp ended up being kind of like the start for that day's circle.
Right.
Sometimes it's just like, somebody said a weird word, or it's literally like I'll hand letter, like bubble letter, how I'm feeling in that moment. There's like plenty of them that are just like, ugh,
Could we see some more?
oh yeah, sure. So like here we can, so let's see. This one was like, I thought I was inspired, but maybe I'm just tired. Like I was like collaging, but I was like, I collaged and drew all this stuff, and I was like, that's really ugly. Like I was really excited about it until I did it, and I was like, well, that's terrible. This just started with a squiggle. Sorry, I don't know if these are in focus at
No,
all.
these are great. They're working. It's
Yeah,
also cool that you have these little anecdotes below them that have like small tweets almost of
yeah.
kind of descriptions.
Yeah, so that was because like initially it was just like, okay, I'm just drawing a circle, but a friend of mine was like, try to be more focused about it. Like let it be something about how you're feeling in that moment. So like this one was, oh, here's one that I think was, I was feeling a little bit down about, like, or like kind of
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, this is so hard. Like, these worms kind of like passing through this like maze kind of thing. And I think that was kind of inspired by like I feel like I'm stuck.
Hmm.
These worms are just kind of like caught up, and it felt like my thoughts at the moment. So it's like, oh, here's one where I was just cranky. It's just I lettered enough already. you
Now,
know?
are these normally like when I know you're like obviously approaching them every day as we were talking about, but is this kind of something that where you take and you sketch something out and then you go back over it with ink, or is it kind of like, all right, this is what it's going to be, and you just like are like pen to paper, this is the exercise?
It depends on the day. Sometimes I do like to start with pencil and then like ink over it, but then sometimes I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. We're just gonna, ink and see what happens. Kind of like just how I would, if I didn't know what to draw, I would just draw a bunch of blobs on a page. Like, those were just ink. Those were just that would just be like, here's a page full of ink blobs. What am I gonna do with them?
Right.
So sometimes I do approach it like that, but a lot of times I do like, I start with a pencil. It's I don't know whose birthday. Oh, this is my dad's birthday. I was like, this is just a
Aw.
bunch of hearts. They say it's your birthday, and it's like that's it. But that was straight up ink.
How long do you say you spend on them? Like about a half an hour or an hour?
It really depends on my mood.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, I'm done with this. It's over in 30 seconds. Or
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, I feel like, oh, I like where I'm going with this. I feel like I'm going to, dig into this a little bit longer. And I spend like 30 minutes to 45 minutes somewhere in there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Cody Bear is saying, I love this idea because it's almost like an illustrative diary. And Bruce says, very cool that you filled them in a sketchbook, which is cool. Yeah, it's nice that you have like this manifestation of just like my brain. It's in a little thing. And it's also very admirable to have a sketchbook from front to back. It's very difficult for me in particular. Do you have a preference towards paper or sketchbooks in particular? Do you go with Moleskines? Do you like to go with something from any certain art store, or is it kind of just anything that has paper?
Um, I don't love Moleskine. This was a Moleskine, and I don't love the texture of them.
Okay.
And I don't love how they erase. They tend to smudge a lot, and like especially my biggest beef with Moleskine, not to drag a brand, sorry, but they like when you ink and then you want to erase your pencils after you've inked, the
Yeah.
ink will pick up too. So
Yeah.
don't love that. Honestly, like especially if you're in a rut or you don't want to commit, because like I had a really long time there where I couldn't finish a sketchbook because they were too precious. And
Yes.
so I started drawing on just loose paper. And
Okay.
then when I gathered enough and like literally like printer paper, paper in the mail, just any paper that like you don't feel precious about. It's like if it's ugly, put it in the recycle bin and go on with your life. It's not like you have this page in an expensive book that you have to keep looking at and it's miserable. Like so then if when I accumulated enough of those pages, then I'd go to like Kinko's or just like a cup printer store and get them bound. And
Right.
then look, it's a finished sketchbook.
It's a nice little hack.
Yeah, yeah, and it's cheap too. The paper doesn't cost anything. Binding it, I think, is like maybe $6,
Yeah.
and you have that sketchbook in your hand. That's like, yes, I did this.
Right.
Um, Otherwise, I really do like to play around. Since I like mixed media a lot. I tend to lean towards like watercolor paper sometimes.
Okay.
Um, a lot of my sketchbooks are ones that are given to me, so I don't necessarily love them, but I'm like, this was a gift. It costs money. I'm going to deal with it. So like that's
It's very
so
admirable of you. For me, I'm just like, okay, as a gift, it'll great on the bookshelf. Cody says, I've always had a hard time keeping a sketchbook, and Mike is saying I prefer hefty paper. Also, hello to Lakshya. We're here with Anuja Pothireddy. If you have any questions about Anuja's work, or if you have things you want to have me relay to her, please, by all means, let me know. Also, as a complete side note, I was scrolling down originally looking for your circles because I didn't realize they weren't online. I ran across this, which is funny in hindsight because it is a board that says 2020 with friends, and it says 2020 off to a noisy start, and we all know how that ended, which is very funny.
Yeah, I know, right? Like looking back on that, I was like, wow, that was an auspicious beginning, I guess.
Very auspicious. But that's very cool. Thank you for being so open with us and sharing this very personal kind of approach to having your circles. And I'd love to see where that continues to go over the years. It'll be interesting. What we should actually really look into is to see if there is such thing as a circle sketchbook, just something that is bound in a circle way. Like that would be really cool. Then you could just fill the whole page as you cycle through.
That's kind of tight. Yeah, that would be interesting. I
Don't know if it exists, but
Yeah.
you have to imagine it does, right? I mean,
I'm sure it does. I have like a zine. I was going to show this later. That is, it's circles, but they're folded in half.
okay.
So it's like a big semicircle. So I guess like that would be a way to approach it.
Yeah, well, honestly, we don't have any sort of schedule to stick to, so we can actually just hop right into art talk. Let's do that. So a big thing that we like to talk about on the show is that art is not created in a vacuum. So much of it is how things are an inspiration to artists and how we are a product of our environments and the things that we absorb. Obviously, one of those big things is, well, actually, no, this wouldn't be art talk. This would be, can I see your collection? So let's do that actually real quick, and then we'll come back to art talk.
Could I see your collection?
And you mentioned that you have some zines that you like to collect, and you have a stack of. And I would love to see what you have in your collection. What made you start collecting zines, and how long have you been collecting them?
So I just have like a fascination for paper ephemera. I try not to accumulate too much of it because I live in a very tiny apartment. But like sometimes
Welcome to New York.
I know, right?
Very different from Texas, I feel like.
Yes, very different. But I still like love it. So if there's just something that I just like can't help but pick up off the shelf or wherever I find it, I just go ahead and get it. And it's like it just makes me happy. So I've got all sorts of stuff. This one is this was a zine. Actually, I didn't buy this off the shelf. This was a zine that was prepared by A24 in support of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And it's a zine specifically about doing your taxes. Great. And all sorts of stuff. Like there's like, this is like all about the IRS. There's stuff there's a whole diagram for how to not pay your taxes. And it's basically be rich and don't get caught. Yeah. How to avoid paying taxes.
And the structural design of it all with the word maps is a very cool and specific kind of design set.
Yes, it's really, really cool. And like, so yeah, this was all because they did a lot of research. The Daniels did a lot of research into the IRS that didn't necessarily make it into the movie. So I like that they found a way to like repurpose that knowledge and they put it into this this weird little like spreadsheet zine.
Yeah, and it's cool. It seems like each page has its own design elements. Like that one was all blacked out, and obviously the other ones feel a little bit more inspired by spreadsheets. So it's kind of cool to see.
Where this is just like a bunch of Getty images. I love this.
It's that's funny.
Yeah.
I like her hiding behind like a machine or something.
Right.
Where did you pick this up?
This was off the A24 website.
Okay.
So they have like all sorts of like they had like all kinds of merch for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and this was one of those things. It was a limited release, and I was like, I have to have that. There's just no avoiding that.
You're able to cop it. By the way, hello to Jack, who just entered the book. Entered the chat. It's good to have you, Jack. Is another wonderful streamer here on Behance. You should check out her work. She's also on Adobe Live sometimes. And then Kendall says, I need this book. And Jack is mentioning that freelance taxes are the worst, which I definitely agree with you.
Oh, yes.
And we can exert that aggressiveness through this wonderful zine that you have. But obviously, you have a whole collection of zines. What else you got?
So this one, there's a couple in here. This one was released by Rockefeller Center. This artist that my mom actually found. She saw this on Art and Seek on PBS, and she was like, I think you really need to look into this artist. And so she is of Iranian descent. I don't want to butcher her name, but I think it's pronounced Argavan Khosravi, but I could totally be tearing that up.
I mean, I think that was a great try, if anything.
Thank you. But this one, I love this because this one was for free. So because she had a bunch of art sprinkled all around Rockefeller Center, and I was looking for it because I knew that like it was in different locations. And so I asked someone who was just working at one of the buildings, just like at the front desk, like, do you know if there's a map or anything? And he gave me a zine. And I was like, this is the best.
You're like, do you know me?
Yeah, I know. Right? Exactly. And so there's all sorts of it's all of her art, and it's all of the places that it was installed. And I love that this beautiful thing was given to me for free. I was like so thrilled about it. And this is the postcard that came with it.
Oh, I love that.
This is a zine that was developed by a friend of mine. She is her family is from Greece. Her name is Tina. This is So Good Magazine, and you can get it. She's on Instagram. I think it's So Good Mag on Instagram. But she just started this, and her whole thing is like going and finding cool designers in different cities all over the world. So this first one is Athens, and it's a variety of like designers and locations and hotels. And she put this together herself. Obviously, she had friends in Athens and stuff who were able to like help her get photographs and things. But she took a lot of the photographs herself. She designed a lot of she designed this whole thing by herself. Just like one woman printing machine. And yeah, it's just like it's just like a really, really cool little object in and of itself, but also it just features really beautiful work by different designers and creators. What was really cool, I loved this one in particular because obviously when you think of Greece, you think of just like classical architecture and all of the history. And what was really interesting is hearing how these like very contemporary designers and artists were like, how do we get out from underneath that and talk about what's happening now, but also not necessarily like abandon it completely, because it's like there's a lot to be proud of, but you don't necessarily want to be weighed down by architecture that's like hundreds or thousands of years old. So it was a really, really interesting conversation, especially because like the United States is a relatively new country. It's not necessarily something that is as big of a concern here in this country as it is over there, or in India for that matter. India, it was interesting because India also is a very, very ancient country with like traditions that are like thousands of years old, and and architecture that's really, really old. And so it's like it's cool to kind of like keep that in mind too. It's like how do me also it's like how do I relate to that, but also my own existence in this country in the 21st century. So this is Sentient Sidewalk. I got this from the Society of Illustrators, and this is all about the plants and like wild medicinal plants that you can find in New York City.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. So this was
I wouldn't trust myself though. I will say that.
No, same. I was like, oh my god, it's like I'm so glad you can do this. I am not pulling up anything from the sidewalk and eating it. But my favorite page, because there's like mushrooms and stuff in here. My friend is actually really good at like foraging and stuff. And so like he lives in Oregon, and I sent him a picture and I was like, do you think I can eat this? And he was like, absolutely not. Don't put that in your mouth.
Good thing you checked though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, also I made the mistake. I did taste a berry that I found on the side. Like there was like this bush, and it looked similar to something I'd eaten in Iceland that my friends prepared. And I was like, oh, maybe I can eat this too. Nothing terrible happened. It just tasted horrible. And I had like a foul flavor in my mouth for the whole day. And so then I learned to check. And now I'm just like, I'm going to leave foraging to people who know what they're doing and not me putting objects in my
I
mouth.
love that though, and you're way braver than I have ever been. As a quick side note, people did take note of your pillow, which we talked a little bit about before when we were doing our tech check.
Yes.
And people are raving about it because Jack says, "Can we talk about that butt pillow?" Because I love that. And also, everyone wants to know if you painted the stool that's off to your side as well.
I did not. So that is from Haiti. My parents actually, that's a tabletop and it's attached to a stool very poorly. But it's a tabletop that my parents bought in Haiti when my mom was expecting me. So my mom likes to call me her stowaway. I know, it was their little baby moon. They went to Haiti together. So that's where that came from. I did not paint that. The butt pillow actually was a sweatshirt that I got as a gift and then immediately stained. Like literally the first day I had it, dropped hot sauce, dropped pho on it, something. And so I didn't want to throw the sweatshirt away because it's amazing. So I salvaged what I could. That's why it's also so tiny, is because the stain is like right under the graphic. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite sew the stain away. So you can see just kind of the remnants of it right there.
Oh, hardly though.
I
Absolutely
know.
hardly.
I know, and especially when it's sitting here, you can't see it. But so that's how I rescued that. Is I made the sweatshirt into a tiny pillow that
Oh, well,
signage.
very handy. Like, to your point of you saying that you really like to dabble in a little bit of everything, I think that's just yet another a great example of, like, if I would stain a sweatshirt, be like, well, that's a bummer. That was a great sweatshirt. Mom, bye. We'd be like, I'm gonna make it a pillow. Oliver says, nice upcycling, and Jack says it's even better as a pillow though.
Thank you. I kind of agree, especially on a sofa, because it's like a sign.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you put your butt.
In case you need direction, and
In case you weren't certain, that's what the purpose of this is. There's even a picture. So, I feel like it's helpful.
No, it's wonderful. And it's cool. Do you often feel like you do a lot of sewing then?
Like lately I did, because I was like, I had accumulated. Usually it's not like I find I'm not like I'm not good at it, but it's somehow it's like I've accumulated cloth in form or fashion, whether it's like t-shirts or sweatshirts, and I don't want to throw them away. And
Right.
so it's like I can't accumulate nonsense because I live in a tiny apartment, and it's like I don't want to have like a hoard of t-shirts that I'm not wearing just because they're sentimental, so I have to do something with it. So that's usually how my sewing comes about. It's like I have this cloth, I don't want to waste it. What do I do with it? It's a problem to solve as opposed to like a craft or a hobby.
Hey, I mean, if it comes from those means, though, I mean, it can still happen, Kelly says she loves it as well. And that's all right. I didn't mean to cut you away from your zines as well.
Well,
If
that's
there's
okay.
anything else you wanted to say, if there's any other ones you wanted to highlight before we move on to our next segment.
Yes, I just wanted to pull up this one. So this zine was by Nikki Skiosia. I don't want to butcher her name either.
Okay.
But ginkgo happens to be my favorite tree, and so that's featured on this page, and it's really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, were these look like they were probably created with ink, right?
These are actually, this was a risograph print.
Oh, risograph. Oh, it's a
Yeah.
whole risograph zine?
Yeah, the whole zine is risograph, which I don't know that I've ever really seen riso done in black and white, but that's what this is. I think this was like a thesis or a senior project or something. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the illustration and MFA program. So yeah, I think this was part of her master's thesis. But it's so cool. It's just really beautifully done. And there's like little interesting information about ginkgo and stuff, and like how like ginkgo biloba, for example, is like specific to memory and stuff. I'm a pretty like a sentimental person, so like ginkgo like just kind of like speaks to me.
Yeah.
My first apartment when I moved here, there were ginkgo trees on the street, and so like fall would come and it was just like yellow, and it's so pretty. So
Yeah. Now, would you ever create your own zine?
I actually did. So this was a while ago. Basically, I was trying to learn InDesign because I hated that program, but I was like, I have to make myself learn it because I had taken on a job where I needed to learn it. And
Right.
so I was like, okay, if I make a project and I have to assemble it in InDesign, this is the only way I'm going to learn it. So I made a zine. And then I think I ended up making a second one. I don't actually know if I have a copy of my zine. This was a very long time ago, but I have, but again, it was like a means to an end. It's not like I don't know that I would like see myself as much of a print artist. But maybe I should give it a go again. I don't know.
No, it'd be great to see also editorial design is like its own masterpiece. And to your point of like using InDesign, that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's fun to be able to drive the narrative of having someone flip through and you get to tell the story, similar to kind of how you were talking about your sequential art, or even with motion, and you have the kind of the control of being able to say like, look at this next.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to switch that over to a physical medium. And then, yeah, Jack is also saying that she hasn't ever seen a black and white Rezo print, which I don't think I have either. But I did go to Mocha recently, and man, Rezo was in full force. They that is the thing to go to for illustration right now.
Yeah.
Which is, it can be really beautiful with a lot of different like neon and what have you.
Yeah, I have a soft corner for it because I do love those neon palettes. Because
Yeah.
I grew up in the '90s. I'll always have a soft color for neon.
We're about an hour into our stream. Time is flying by, having a great time. And we like to do a little exercise of monkey paws during our streams, just to take care of our hands. Would you like a break, or would you like to go along with us?
No, I'll do monkey paws. Let's do it.
All right, let's do some monkey paw. So if this is your first time doing monkey paws is an exercise that was taught to me by watching Anna Davis Court's live stream. She's another live streamer here on Behance and Adobe Live. You should check her work out. Wonderful illustrator. She did these beautiful illustrations down here as well. And it is just a way to take care of your hands in a means to prevent carpal tunnel, to prevent fatigue, and just obviously our hands are the gateway to creating a lot of our art. And if you lose access to your hands, creating art becomes a lot harder. So it's important to take care of your body and yourself. So we just like to, about an hour into our show, like to do these exercises. So what you're going to do is a series of 4 exercises. You're going to put out your hands like this, and then you're going to bring them in to make a little monkey paw and go ooh, ooh, ah, ah.
Ooh, ooh, ah, ah? Is
Yes.
that part of the exercise?
Yes, it's very important. It doesn't work if you don't make the noises. So it's ooh, ooh, ah, ah.
Ooh,
Go like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeing a bunch of emotes in the chat, which I appreciate. Thank you, Umacorn and Corey. And so then the next one we're going to do is we're going to go down like this, and then you bring them in again. You'll probably feel it like in your thumb or your in your wrist. If it hurts at any point, stop. Not a medical professional, just an exercise. And you release. Next, you flip them out like this. You bring it in. And then release. Cody says making the sound helps. Absolutely. Thank you also for the ooh-ahs, Kendall. Appreciate that. And then bring it in for the very last one. This is always the hardest one. And go like that. And ooh-ah. So hold that and release. And then we shake it up a little bit. I always like to tell people, take the time to also, stretch your neck out a little bit. You can even do these little funny things that like baseball players do. Stand up, walk around if you need to. But basically just listening to your body. Obviously, it's very easy to get into bad posture when you're drawing or designing. So just you can do this as many times as you want. Normally, we just do it twice to go through the stream, just to give a little bit of it. But if you do them regularly, they get easier. They don't hurt as much, or not hurt, but feel weird. It kind of feels like when you're reaching for your toes. And it's just a good way to pay attention to your body, take care of it. And it also, as soon as you start feeling sort of carpal tunnel, if you feel it real quick, I got one of these mouse that's like that. So you move like this. You got the same one. Oh, but yours is white. Yours is prettier than mine. And just make sure that, you use your whole elbow and whatnot when you're creating. So thank you for doing monkey paws with me. I appreciate it. Now, you have had quite the journey that we've talked a little bit about your past and kind of how you've gotten to where you are now. Obviously, You have done a lot of work over the years, but we do have a segment that we like to do called From This to That, where we like to look at the past and then see how it adapts to the present. So let's hop into that.
From this to that.
So I went through your Instagram, scrolled down. As always, like I'm always so impressed with how much people post. You have posted so much over the years. One thing that you didn't mention, and I managed to find it while we were on stream together, is this absolute monstrosity of your friend. You said that you drew her gross, and I was not expecting this one. So just wow. Tell me a little bit about this. It looks like you put it on some paper and then cut it out and placed it on something else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like our medium of choice, especially at that particular job, was Post-it notes. They had multicolored Post-it notes everywhere. So of course we abused them. So they were like, there was like a partition, like there was like a glass partition in front of my desk. And then there was my art director behind me. There was glass partition behind him, and we covered both of those in Post-it note doodles. So this was, I drew her originally on an orange Post-it note, cut it out as you do, and then blurped it onto a blue Post-it note. But yeah, she did not care for this. And of course, and it was like displayed in the office so everyone could admire her pink eye. And yeah, that's about it. It's, I think there were like a lot of highlighters around too. And then we carried, like I used to carry in my purse, just like art, like a little bag, like this little bag of art supplies was just like with me at all times.
Oh wait, that's the cutest little bag of
Thanks.
look at that. It's like a little leather pouch.
It's made of cork.
Whoa.
My girlfriend brought it back for me from Portugal, where cork is like a big thing. I know. And so like these are like my favorite tools, and they're just like always on my desk.
What kind of markers do you like?
So I love this Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen. This is one of my favorite colors. It's like ginkgo yellow.
Okay.
Gel pens. I love these, especially there's one in neon. This red neon. These
gel pens?
Yeah, they're just jelly rolls. Yeah, they're really opaque too. And they're not like wildly expensive. And then like different pens, like this one, I got this from Kinokuniya. Like there's like a couple of really, really good pens from Kinokuniya, and then I have like a handful of Tombow pens, like these double-sided Tombows that live with me and are everywhere. So yeah.
Oh, it's really great to see. Originally, McCorn thought you said pork skin rather than cork, but cork.
That would smell so bad.
Oh, yeah, that would smell so bad.
Just like if this just smelled like bacon.
Here we go, got some bacon all the time. I mean, that would just make me hungry, honestly. But we also have one that's back from 2015, which was during Inktober, and you have Brush the Heat.
Yes.
And so how was it when you did Inktober? Obviously, you now have a new project when you're doing your circles, but how was it when you were kind of more tied to something that had structure and the idea of creating Inktober?
It was good. I don't know that I ever fully completed an Inktober, or if I did, like I skipped a bunch of days. But it was really fun. Like this was actually like I brushed it in ink and then brought it into Photoshop for the color.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually black, and you just switched it over with like mapping it out.
Correct. So it was really fun. It could get like to be a little bit like too much pressure sometimes. So like I haven't done Inktober in a little bit because it's just like it can get a little bit overwhelming, especially depending on how busy I am. But I enjoyed it. Like, and I would like it would force me to go and like take it in public too, especially. Yeah. So that's how we got into, like, me and my friends, we had gotten into the habit of just like meeting up at a coffee shop and drawing there or drawing in a bar. It was, I don't know, it was really fun. I liked the community aspect of it too, because like when when you're like creating a thing and you just kind of put it up there and it's like, okay, cool, it's out there. But it's just like, I really enjoyed like hitting the Inktober, hashtag and seeing what else everybody was doing. It was inspiring.
Yeah. It's always nice to be able to kind of approach something together without having the uncertainty and aggression of a group project that you have to rely on others. Whereas like if you're all doing the same thing, you can kind of just work with it.
100%.
Also similar to kind of let's looking at your sketchbook, you were actually pretty open about uploading sketchbook pages in the past year with June 25th, 2015. And we have this hungry collection of both snails and people. This is from, I guess, June 24th, 2015.
Mhm.
Was this kind of how you approached kind of autobiographical journalism back then?
Yeah, pretty much. This was probably a piece of paper from like the printer or like from a piece of mail or something.
Mhm.
Just flipped it over and would just like draw whatever I was feeling on the back of it. And it was very much, inspired by like what was going on around me. Like for example, I took my niece, we went to go see box trolls. And so
Oh, fun.
that's my niece as a pistachio box troll.
Oh,
Um
cute.
yeah, and then just like creatures, like a lot of times what I would do is just like start with like a red squiggle and just see what pops up. It's like I said, I'm like I don't plan. It just like organically is what happens. That's actually my niece sleeping too. This was on a I think this was on a plane. Maybe this was on a plane because we were flying to India together and I had bought a neck pillow and I was like, Kalyani, do you want one too? For the flight. And she's like, no, that's okay. And then she ended up sleeping on mine. And so that's my neck pillow under her head. Um, not that I'm salty about it or anything.
Yeah, I know. Literally like 10 years later, and you're like, remember when you stole my pillow?
I know. But yeah, I don't even have that pillow. I think she took it.
No.
So yeah, oh yeah, these are in-flight doodles. Yes, that's what this is. So yeah, it's really like, especially in flight, that was a really long flight to India, and it was just like, how do
Yeah,
I
it's
kill the time? You
total
know?
other side of the world.
Exactly.
But the other thing I really want to call out here is your relationship to type really seems like it has remained strong, but it always was kind of a strong point of yours. When you're creating these, is this are you referencing other different typefaces? Are you referencing different pieces of work? Or are you just kind of saying, how can I switch it so it's a little bit different between like, doubt and luxury and we can't? Like those are three very different approaches.
Yeah, I try not to look at reference while I'm drawing. So
Hmm.
like I like consume tons of other people's type design like when I'm not drawing, but then like
Right.
when I'm just like sitting in front of it by myself, especially for something like a sketchbook page, I'm not looking at anything. I'm
Yeah.
just like it's just happening like right then and there. I probably should look at more reference. Like maybe some of
I
these
mean, if it
letterboards.
works, it works. I mean, these are all looking really nice.
Thank you.
And it's also cool that you have that red under planning, especially down there for like drool is a tool,
Mhm.
which I don't know what that means, but
Well, I'm gonna say it's something from Monsters University because that looks like the
oh,
Monsters University logo underneath it. But I
got
don't.
it.
I
Yeah.
saw that too. I was like, what was that about? Why did I say that?
I mean, it's probably a long flight. You probably watched Monsters University like on the flight or something.
I'm sure we did.
I probably just inspired it.
I'm
And then
gonna
I
say
have
that could
a
happen.
D&D sketch, which is this cute pigeon, I believe. And it's a DM giving away some information about a crawl. I'm guessing this is also in some sort of sketchbook. Did you sketch this while playing D&D?
Yes. So we had gone that I remember that day because we'd gone to Party City and it was like right before Halloween and there were those gnarly masks that were like full head.
Yes.
So I'm pretty sure this was photo reference. Like this is my friend Drew. He or one of us must have put that on our heads and I took a photo of it.
Yeah.
And then while he was DMing, I love D&D, but I'm not good at playing because I am too busy drawing.
Yeah.
So while he was DMing, I think that must have happened like right then and there. And I just drew the bird head on him because why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now we've looked at a few of these different ones that you have between, I mean, this is one of the oldest ones that I pulled is like 2014 Happy Turkey Day. But how do you feel like your work has changed since some of these examples, and what do you feel has stayed the same? It's disgusting.
you know, in some ways it's like it's hard for me to look back at my old work because I feel like I like it better. I'm like,
Oh,
oh
really?
yeah, I'm like, oh man, I lost something along the way. It's weird. Like and then, then like maybe in a year or two, I'll like what I'm doing now. But it's like, I, I don't know. I think the typography has stayed there. I wonder if maybe I kind of like the griminess of this. It's a janky photograph, but I like the pencil line work. I think I've tried really hard to like dig deeper into ink and stuff. And so like
Mhm.
the pencil-y aspect has sort of like disappeared, and maybe I should revisit that. And I like this ink work too. I was using more brushes at this time, so I was using India ink and like a really cheap set of brush, because it's like I can't bring myself to buy expensive brushes, especially if
Right.
it's something I'm just experimenting with. So I kind of like all these like squiggly little lines in here, and I feel like I've kind of veered more graphic,
Yeah.
like flat shapes as opposed to like these sort of realistic textures. And maybe I should revisit it, but I also like the flatness that I've been doing lately. I don't know. I Yeah, and I've definitely leaned more digital, because I was like, I wanted things to have a certain polish. Like,
Right.
so it's like I went more digital, and I was like trying to make work that looked more finished. So, looking back at those like sketchbook pages, it's like, a janky sketch isn't gonna hurt anybody if I post that every now and again.
No, I think that there is room for both, definitely. I can see that you definitely have honed skill and the idea of kind of making this connection with digital. But I think that your work has only gotten better over time. And it's great to see your journey and see what has kind of remained true, where you still have this like ink blob style, but then you're able to then bring it in and have a digital overlay onto it, which is really nice. And yeah, I mean, obviously, you're always going to have rose tinted glasses, but I
Mhm.
think all of it is very admirable, and it's cool to see it grow as time goes on.
Thank you.
So, that said, also obviously you are getting inspiration from all different sorts of places, and we kind of dipped our toes into it a second ago, for a second back there. But now I think would be a great time to talk about some of your inspiration. You sent me over a few different names, and you said it was very hard for you to pick. One of them was Bisa Butler, who is an American fiber artist who created a new genre of quilting that has transformed the medium. Although quilting has long been considered a craft, her interdisciplinary methods, which create quilts that look like paintings, have catapulted quilting into the field of fine art. And so, do you want to kind of go into how you found Bisa Butler and what inspires you from her work?
Sure. So I think the first Bisa Butler piece I encountered was like in real life. Like I think I just like stumbled into her work at a museum one time,
Hmm.
um, and was just shocked that it's quilted. Like
Yeah.
it's fabric that's so pieced together, especially for like the insane amount of value. Like it looks like an oil painting, but they are small pieces that she has assembled of fabric that she's assembled into these really specific shapes to define portraits, like, and define bone structure and
Yeah.
lighting. It just blew my mind,
Now, how big are they?
They're big.
Yeah.
They're big. Like if you think of like a Kehinde Wiley like big painting, like some of these are really big. I think they vary in size, but like the one that I happened to see, I was like, it was big. Um, I can't imagine like the hours, and just their needles are pointy. These are sharp objects. Like, how many times you have to stick yourself in the finger just by accident assembling something this intricate. And also, like, the other thing about fabric is that it puckers. It's like it's not a flat surface. If you put a stitch wrong, then you end up with like a weird fold somewhere. And these were
Right.
like so flat, and really just like the craftsmanship really, really blew me away. Like there wasn't like weird wonky parts and stuff, they're really just so unbelievably well assembled. And this was before I ever made my own quilt. I was like, this is crazy. Like, it's so creative. It's just such an interesting use of material. I think that's what it was. It was just like it's such a completely like quilting is a very familiar media, but quilting in this manner, it's such a cool twist on something that's so old, like it's such an old tradition.
Yeah, I would never think to even attempt to try some sort of portraiture with
No.
quilting, or even make that connection of like that even being a possibility. And
Right,
then even on top of that, it seems like she's using these really cool mix and match. Like she's not even using the same pattern for the entire pant. Like this
right.
front is very different from this checkered back, but it's the same subject, which is kind of cool to see.
And it still feels cohesive for how like loud those prints are. I mean, it would be so easy for them to just clash.
Right.
It's like I tried to like improvise just like a quilt square, just like with like pieces I had lying around, and it looked hideous. And it's really amazing what she's able to make feel so cohesive in such disparate elements. It's she's crazy. It's amazing. She's amazing.
She's crazy.
She's so cool.
But you recently actually went and you had created this quilt from old t-shirts, right?
Yes, that's correct. So
And was that was inspired a little bit by her, right?
yeah, there was a little bit obviously nowhere to her technical ability. But yeah, just taking, you know, all these different t-shirts that like even looking at this now, it's like I probably would have rethought some of these colors a little bit, like maybe like swap some things out. But just taking disparate elements and like assembling them into a cohesive piece that like, I don't hate and I'm happy to use. It was a good process, and it's the longest project I've ever taken on. It took me just under a year, and
Wow.
it's like the biggest thing I've ever made, and easily the most useful thing I've ever made. Like
Right.
I actually sit underneath it and use it, and it's nice.
Mike is in the chat saying, "Yeah, that quilt grandma left me looks a bit plain now," which I feel like people aren't necessarily ever using these as anything except them just being on the wall and beautiful in a gallery setting. But I'm sure making your own quilt probably also gave you a sense of even more respect for the idea of how difficult it is. Cody says that quilting is harder than it seems, and Bruce says that this is very impressive. Um, but it's just, yeah, it's wild to even imagine the process of being able to approach that.
Right.
Um, you also did send over a bunch of other names as well. You mentioned Oshin Siva. I'm going to go ahead and pull up their work real quick. But as I pull it up, do you want to talk a little bit about why you also chose to mention Oshin?
So Oshin actually I met on a project. I was doing like some stickers for WhatsApp with Hornet, and she was one of the other artists on that project.
Mhm.
I loved her because she is Indian. She's from southern India, and I loved her work because it's it harkens to India. It's obviously like it has that like really strong influence, but it's also a very very unique voice. Um it's not necessarily like I hate to use the word stereotypical, but it's like it's not like stereotypical Indian. It's not what someone would be like, "Oh, this is what a contemporary Indian artist is supposed to do."
Right.
She has very much her own voice, but is referencing her, where she comes from in a really specific way. I love her graphic style. She's just like, and she approaches, especially some of her work, it approaches femininity in a way that is not sexualized,
Right.
so it's like it's very strong, it's very womanly. It's like she does paint like nudes and stuff, but it's not for the male gaze, it's not for sexuality, or it's not for if it is for internal woman's sexuality, it's not for the pleasure of anybody else but that woman, which
Yeah.
I love. And it's so apparent, and which just like the colors are so like are really really strong, the features are really really strong. There's like something about like what a feminine woman's face is supposed to look like, and she kind of flies in the face of that, but they're still beautiful.
Yeah, with the strong cheekbones is something
Exactly.
I'm seeing is a lot of things that she has.
Especially
Um,
jawline, like
yeah.
this this is something I take personally because like when I was growing up, I felt bad about my own jawline until I went to Art Institute and we were looking at photo retouchers portfolios.
Yeah.
And you see the before and the after. And one of the things that this particular artist did is cut down on a jawline on photographs of women. And
Yeah.
I felt like it was like,
I've been
this,
duped my whole life, kind of.
yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. I was duped. I fell for it. I was duped. And so I love, like, anytime I see like a strong jawline, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. And so are these some of the stickers that you guys worked on together, or was this something separate?
So these are her stickers. We
These are
each,
good.
like, each artist had their own set of stickers. These are her stickers.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I like how you called out the colors specifically, and also how you said it was like untraditional Indian art. I feel like some of these like oranges and these like yellows feel very like Indian inspired, but at the same time they don't feel like, to your point, as like traditional or expected.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to see those. And I just also love when someone puts like yellow next to pink, or like pink next to orange, and it has that vibrate.
Yes.
But she does it in such a way that it doesn't overstimulate your eyes to a sense to make it illegible.
Right.
But it's still just enough to add interest without making detracting from the work, which is cool.
Exactly. She's a beast, and it's really cool too because she just works at all scales. Like,
Yeah,
these are stickers that go on your phone, they're like tiny, but she
right.
also makes huge murals, and all of her whole body of work feels really, really cohesive, but it doesn't at any scale. It's like, it's hers, and it's still super legible and really well crafted and really good.
And then we have time for just about one more. You mentioned Laurie Rosenwald. You said that you just finished her book, How to Make Mistakes on Purpose.
Mhm.
You said it's wonderful and liberating. What really resonated with you about the book, and would you suggest it to viewers?
I would definitely suggest it to viewers. Um, what I loved about it is that it's so much about it is like not being precious about trying different things. As much as like everybody's like, oh, you need to have a cohesive voice. And she's just like, no, don't do that. It's like, make what you want and go about your business. And she's just like very unapologetic about making what makes her happy right in that moment. Um, and to me, it's like she doesn't necessarily try to do anything specific or try to have a cohesive style, but I still feel like it's her voice and it's very obvious. But she just makes what she wants, and she does it so fast. Like, she's one of her work. One of the pieces was like, I had to draw a bird. I don't know how to draw a bird, so she tore up pieces of paper and then was like, okay, I'm going to draw, like, tore up pieces of paper, scanned it, and then digitally gave it, eye and a beak. And she was like, this is a bird now because I said it is.
Right.
Yes. I mean,
Yes. And I can also see a lot of through points for your work as well, with the idea of kind of mixing and matching and building different pieces out of different mediums and different colors, and like the structure of the circles here, but it's alongside a very sketchy vibe of this drawing. And I can definitely see a through point. What does she really talk about in the book, as far as like her approach to I don't know, creating art outside of just like being okay with making mistakes? Does she say anything about business aspects, or does she mention like where she finds inspiration?
not particularly. I mean, well, as far as inspiration, she is very much like, you exist. If your eyes are open and you're awake, then inspiration is everywhere. Like, it's
Right.
kind of like, it is your job to soak that up like a sponge. It's already there. You don't have to find it. It's literally in front of you. It's, in every step you take, you can find inspiration somehow. So it's like, kind of like, not it's like aggressively going out and like inspiring yourself versus like waiting for it to sort of, diaphanously like settle on you. You know what I'm
Ooh,
saying? It's
diaphanously. What a good word for it.
and then business, not so much.
That's
She's
fine.
not it's not really about the business of creativity as much as just like, be creative, but even she's like, this is not a creativity course. This is not about being creative. But the
Right.
whole thing is about how she makes things. So,
No, I mean, she's got really beautiful stuff. I mean, she kind of seems like she has a signature kind of color palette that she's working with as well. It's also cool to see it on such a large scale. I guess that was in like Times Square she has. But yeah, no, it's some very cool art. And once again, guys, her name is Rosen.
Rosenwald.
Rosenwald.
Yeah.
So make sure you check out her work. And then we also were looking at Bisa Butler and Oshin Siva. I'm going to also put those in the chat for everybody in case they want to look it up on their own time. But we are just at about time. Time flies by, which is crazy. Is there anything that you're currently working on or you're looking forward to kind of presenting in the future, or should we just keep an eye on your Instagram?
Right now, just like I've got like a little weird, little goofy personal project. It was sort of inspired by like just drawing my friends.
Mhm.
Like so 36 days of type is happening right now. And I was like, I'm busy with other stuff. I'm not gonna get involved with that. And then of course it started and I was like, oh, I have an idea. So so instead of doing it every day, I'm just going to assemble them all at once and probably do like 3 posts, you know, and just like blorp them out into the world. But it's basically like every letter of the alphabet is going to represent a friend or a
Oh,
family.
cool. Do they have to start with the name of the friend that you're working with? Like,
Yes.
you're like, oh my god, I have to find a Q friend. I don't know where, but
So I did run into that. And so 3 people are video game characters
oh,
because
okay. You
because
know, you could draw connections with them.
yes. So
Which has been your favorite so far? I mean, obviously, we'll wait to see them, but do you have a favorite letter that you've done so far?
so far, well, I've just done the initial sketches. I
Mhm.
just scanned them all in yesterday. So nobody's finished yet. I have a color palette that I like. But I think maybe my friend Bill is letter B. I'm pretty happy with how he came out. My friend Mike is the letter M, and I kind of like incorporated, he makes a particular face. He's like, it's like this, it's very strange face. And I managed to like incorporate that into the bottom of the M is his little weird face.
You love to draw your friends unflattering.
I do. I know.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous to be your friend.
It is. So yeah, they're all none of them are pretty. I mean,
Yeah.
like some of them are reasonably okay. Like my friend Jacqueline is letter J, and I don't think she'd be mad at me. Like,
But they're not glamour shots. Bruce wants to know if they'll be animated.
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
was like,
I mean, it's a big project to take on even
yeah.
without animation.
And I thought about like maybe doing like a shape in the background that like flickered, or like adding like some, maybe like a textured element or a blink, because a blink is easy,
A blink
you
is
know.
easy.
But
That's just like 3 frames.
right. But I decided I'm just gonna like, because I think they're already on letter P right now in the actual one. So I was like, okay, Z's gonna come up quick, and then I'm not gonna have any of them done. So I just decided to like.
Is Z Zelda?
No, Z is Zangief from Street Fighter.
Street Fighter, nice.
Yeah. So
Nice,
yeah, they're all
nice.
fighting games.
Oh,
So
very cool.
yeah.
But great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I had a great time talking to you. I found some great artists that I need to follow and I need to look into. I mean, I loved those quilts. Those were so cool. Thank you for sharing us all of your projects, your sketchbook, your circles, your work. And it's been a really pleasure getting to talk to you. Thank you to everyone that is saying hello and asking questions in the chat. Thank you to Cody for putting the links for both Anuja's Instagram and website in the chat. But yeah, do you have any last words?
No, thank you so much for having me. It was awesome getting to chat on you for a little while, and thank you to Adobe for hosting all this, and I really appreciate it.
Great. All right. Well, we will talk to you soon. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. All right, guys. That's it for me for today. We will be back tomorrow for our last day of Offset. And that's exciting because we have 2 more great artists coming up tomorrow. And I'm really excited to see you guys tomorrow with the idea of we both have photography and branding / design. So make sure you tune into those. But as far as today goes, make sure you stick around for Adobe Fonts Show coming up next. Thank you again for Cody for moderating. And thank you for everyone that said hello. Thank you, Julian, for the nice words to Anuja. He said great, lovely, inspiring. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Take care, stay inspired, and make sure you take care of yourselves with some monkey paws and just, giving yourself time to breathe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.